Welcome to Iconically Iconic.
Hello, babes. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new, welcome. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about Syd and Dre's relationship. So let's get into it. So when we meet Dre and Syd, we're introduced to them as children. They're children of hip-hop culture and fall in love with it from a very young age. It takes place in New York City, which makes sense because hip-hop originated here and was filmed all over New York, mainly in Brooklyn and Manhattan. But Dre and Sydney are childhood friends whose commonality is their love for hip-hop. Syd is an editor-in-chief for Hip Hop magazine for XXL, and Dre is a music exec for Millennium Records, both pursuing careers in fields they love, hip-hop. So let's get into the friendship of Dre and Syd. Syd and Dre have a deep bond that was formed in their childhood due to not only their love of hip-hop, but being able to connect with one another and genuinely valuing and loving their friendship. Syd is the friend who is honest and upfront, but supports her friends and cheers them on. While she is a realist, she's not pessimistic, two things that people often confuse with one another. You can be honest with your friend while also being supportive, and some people don't know how to do that or try to enforce their views and values onto their friend because of how they would react in certain situations. When Syd and Dre see each other at the Def Jam party, you can see how they both genuinely care and love one another. There's a comfortability there and that sense of home that you feel with certain friends whom you've grown up with from young. But that leads me back to my point with Syd being a realist. When Dre tells Syd he's going to propose, she asks him, is he sure? Now, while she might be slightly jealous, because she feels like her friend is being taken away from her and she has underlying feelings for him, she brings up a good point in that he's only known her for a short amount of time, and wanting to marry someone who you've only known for a short period of time is a major decision.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
But Dre, you've known her for like 5 minutes.
She does give her support once Dre tells her that Reese is the one. Dre is that friend who is all about fun and supportive as well. Much like Syd, he takes his love for hip-hop seriously and keeping it alive with authentic, good artists who aren't about gimmicks. Dre is the friend who people come to with their problems, gives you solid advice, and reminds you of your worth. Now, Dre. So when Dre tells Syd he will be proposing to Reese, I think him pulling that engagement ring out was him subconsciously trying to get Syd to confess her feelings for him and attest he already knew he was in love with Syd but wasn't sure where he stood with her romantically, especially since she turned him down during their college years.
Dre asked me once when I was at Columbia if we should try being more than just friends, and I told him no.
I feel like his speech about Reese being the one was meant for Syd. So after Dre proposes to Reese, Syd's facial expression tells us everything we need to know. That she secretly has feelings for Dre but doesn't want to tell him. They have incredible chemistry, which is also credited to Sanaa and Tay because they developed a close friendship after The Best Man, but I feel like he had no chemistry with Reese. Their relationship felt more surface level and like he married her because she was good for his image. She was beautiful, a lawyer, but I don't think he truly loved Reese. Maybe he had love for her, but I don't think he was in love with her. And he reserved his vulnerable, true self for Syd. Even if it wasn't intentional, his close bond with her would get in the way of any relationship because she was always the person he runs to first, whether good or bad news. Leading me to my next point, Dre leaving his job and starting his own label. While I loved Dre and Syd together, I feel Reese had every right to be upset that he would even share career-changing news with his friend before he even told his wife. It was out of line. Maybe Reese wasn't as encouraging and supportive as Syd was. However, none of that mattered because she's your wife, not Syd. She liked to be realistic, but there is a way to go about it, as I've stated before. I think trying to belittle your partner as if they're a child and can't make rational decisions would anger anyone and cause an issue in your relationship. But it's like Dre couldn't see it from Reese's point of view. You are married now. Your wife comes first, not your friend, regardless of how long you are friends. You exchanged vows, and something as major as you leaving a job you've worked for years is something you discuss with your wife first and vice versa. But Dre already knew the type of woman he married and how she looked at things from an analytical perspective, and I think she didn't really take his job seriously, which is why I don't understand why he proceeded to marry Reese. They didn't have much in common aside from the fact that they were both ambitious and loved their jobs, but other than that, they weren't compatible at all. When Dre went to Syd's the night before his wedding, he wanted Syd to tell him to call off the wedding. He didn't say it, but his actions show that. And listen, Dre has some red flags, okay? Because sir, you're already cheating and you're not even married yet. Which is why Syd was hesitant to turn their friendship into something more, because she constantly saw his player ways and how he was afraid of commitment. It's one thing when you date a man and you're not really aware of his past, so you give him a chance. And how he was in previous relationships, you didn't get to witness that side of him. And it's a whole other thing to know him since you were children and watched him in every relationship play with the feelings of multiple women and always find reasons to not commit. Now, granted, they were young, but you'll ask the question, what will be so different with me? And him kissing her the night before his wedding confirmed her suspicions about him getting married.
Dre, wait. Are you sure you want to do this tomorrow?
So after Reese and Dre's wedding, Syd has an interview with Kelby, who asked personally for her to interview him, which we know is because he wanted Syd and used the interview to get with her one-on-one. Her cousin tells her that she needs to dangle in order to get with Kelby and get his attention, although she didn't need to do that.
Look, I know you don't want to make that little friend of yours jealous, but you need the real thing.
It's a massager from Brookstone.
Whatever you want to call it.
I'm meeting Kelby on business. This isn't a date.
But it's an opportunity. So you gotta dangle.
But she is played by my fave, Queen Latifah. I love anything that she's in. And she told Syd up front about her playing games when it came to Dre, and she was absolutely right. Syd played a lot of games with Dre sometimes. She would lead him on and then pull back and then repeat the whole process again. I think that both Dre and Syd had placeholders in their lives to take their minds off of the fact that they were secretly in love with one another. The moment Dre saw Syd on that date with Kelby, he realized just how deep his feelings were for her and was instantly jealous. Both of the people they were with, they barely knew and were making serious commitments to them. Syd got engaged after a few months, and Dre married a woman that he didn't know and didn't know him. I also feel like Kelby and Reese deserved better when it came to their relationships. They were putting in more than their partners. While yes, Syd and Dre were soulmates, they were inconsiderate of how it made their partners feel about their friendship and purposely played obtuse anytime someone would bring up the fact that they had feelings for one another, and they were stringing Kelby and Reese along. Reese was very aware of the fact that Syd loved Dre, and not just as a friend as Syd would claim, but Reese also saw the signs and how she would act with Dre, and the same thing goes for Kelby. He just observed quietly. Dre knew that over time they wouldn't have as much time for one another. Kelby and Syd had no chemistry either, but yeah, I do love how Syd would let Dre vent, listen to him, and then offer her advice, and how both of them would connect with one another on a deeper level. The moment he told her he left his company and is going to start his own label, she was so happy for him and believed in him. It wasn't like it was a major career change. It was still in the field that he knew about and was passionate about. He also had connections with the industry, including Syd. Syd also helped invest in his company. Now, when Syd sees Reese at her boxing classes, Reese is being very passive aggressive, but also aggressive at the same time, if that even makes sense. And listen, as women, we know when something is up, even if the other woman has feelings for our man and she may not know it, but majority of the time, our intuition never lies. However, her grievances should have been taken up with Dre and not Syd. Anyways, Kelby proposes and Dre was in his feelings.
What are you doing?
Get more to drink.
You know what I'm talking about. And then this whole marriage thing. Don't you think this is just a little Reese and you married Sasquatch?
Oh, so I'm doing this because of you? You arrogant son of a bitch. You really on your own sack right now. So I guess since I can't marry you, I'm marrying Kelby.
And it's because he had a few glasses of champagne and his true feelings were coming out. Also, sidebar, I just find it to be so funny how they both had partners who barely had any interest in what they did, and I feel like Kelby and Reese had more in common with one another than they did with both Dre and Syd. Anyway, while Dre and Syd were at the studio, he and Reese had accidentally switched phones again, but this time it's from the guy that Syd told Dre Reese was flirting with at the gym. And when I tell y'all, that restaurant scene has me in tears every time I see it. Tay Diggs is a damn fool. Her having all of these questions about Syd, meanwhile she was cheating on him.
Friends of Reese's. Yeah, well, actually, the funny thing is, she's my wife. What?
Syd dragging him out of that restaurant like an old church grandmother.
Right.
We gonna celebrate what? My divorce. How about that? And some pork chops, because I'm kind of hungry. All right? Good, I want to make a scene. You know what I'm saying? Bye-bye, Richard Watson.
Anytime I'm watching this movie, I rewind this scene back. Dre tells Syd deep down inside he knew that Reese wasn't the one, and his feelings were confirmed when he came over the night of his bachelor party.
I guess I always knew deep down inside that we weren't meant to be together.
Yeah? And when'd you figure that out?
The night before the wedding, something happened between me leaving the house and getting to the wedding. But you know, I shook it off because damn, I had a beautiful woman that loved me to death. So you know, I took all those feelings and locked them away because not everybody can marry their one true love.
And then they get busy. The both of them had no business being in relationships until they worked out their feelings for one another. Now, I don't really believe in men and women being friends because at some point or another, someone will catch feelings. People like to say, oh no, you can be friends, platonic friends with a guy or a girl or vice versa, because maybe they don't like that friend, but the friend that they don't like may be the one liking them. They will stick around that person being a quote-unquote friend because they don't want to let that person go and will pretend as if those feelings don't exist. Now, it could be in a few months or a few years, but honey, those feelings always show up. Always. Everyone saw how in love they were with one another, but they were in denial. And it wasn't so much Dre because he was always willing to explore a relationship, but Syd was just stubborn and scared, which is understandable. But once they both got in serious relationships, they couldn't hide it anymore. I think the best marriages and relationships start out as friendships, which is why Syd and Dre were so good together. And I would have loved a part 2 following up on their relationship and to see them thriving in their careers, married with kids and teaching them about music, but I think I'm asking for too much. This is one of my favorite rom-coms. It's not heavy, the soundtrack is a classic, the cast is beautiful, it's funny, and it's one of the few black rom-coms that you can watch that doesn't promote struggle love or toxic relationships, but just how your soulmate sometimes is right in front of you. And with that being said, this video has come to an end. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Make sure your notification bells are turned on so that you always know when I upload. And I will catch you guys in the next one.